and ideals. What are you planning to bring to the table? What are you planning to do for your people? Are you going to build a school? Are you going to introduce universal health coverage for every Ugandan? Are you going to introduce free education from primary to university? Yes, I'm sure 2020 we shouldn't be talking about I'm a celebrity and I can do this and that because I've been doing this already in the mainstream. No, but even if you're new, but what can you do for your people in your respective region? My name is Romeo Busiko and you're still watching Morning at NTV. Election Watch. Police raided the National Unity Platform offices yesterday and they contended 7 million signatures that were being put together for the presidential flag bearer, that is Robert Chigumanya, were made away with by the police and the other military officials. They also took away other military regalia and 23 million shillings that the NUP was actually planning to use for the nomination today for some of their candidates. They have like 427 candidates that are vying for the various MP seats in this country ahead of the 2021 elections in February. But as it is, you need 3 million to be nominated. And Mr. David Louis Rubongoye, before we get into this conversation earlier, he was telling me some of that money went missing. So some of those candidates, even 100 of those, might not have the money for nomination. But the main man, the Secretary General of the National Unity Platform, Mr. David Louis Rubongoye, he's with me right now in studio to make sense of all this quagmire. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
Please, the viewer is watching. What happened yesterday? Why did police raid the National Unity Platform offices? What did they take? And what will be the implications of this raid?
Thank you so much and good morning to the viewers. So yesterday, we were at our office doing our normal work, meeting some of our candidates for councillors, and I've been very, very busy these days signing for our different candidates across the country, you know, their nomination papers and all that, and also doing other things basically. And then before we knew it, the whole place was surrounded. First it was LDUs marching by and then taking positions, and then the red top came in, and then the police. I don't know how many there were. There were so many. You would imagine...
I heard someone say it was a whole village.
Yeah, I mean, the whole of Kamocha, as you know it, and Chira, all those places were surrounded by the military and police. And so we did not know what they were doing, because we are a law-abiding institution. Everything we do it openly. Everyone knows what we do. And then before we knew it, they started breaking into the gate, entered, and brought a lot of havoc on the entire place. And at the end of the day, we found that they had taken a lot of valuable things for us, because they took, as you rightly said, most of the papers which we had written on signatures for our presidential flag bearer, the Honorable Chigumanya Centum. They took 23 million shillings.
23 million shillings.
23 million shillings. You know, we've been having a fundraiser, and 2 days ago, the Honorable Chigumanya came out and announced that we had raised 117 million shillings, part of which we already sent to the different regions, and the fundraiser was still on. So yesterday, what was at the office was 23 million shillings. It is missing. They took our CCTV cameras, they vandalized them and took all of that. They took umbrellas, they took all sorts of paraphernalia for the party, T-shirts, umbrellas, all sorts of things basically. Pens, papers, everything.
And you are collecting signatures for Robert Chigumanya?
Yeah, we've been doing that for over 2 months now.
So does that mean you do not have a single signature as we speak to catch up with the mandated 9,800 signatures needed by the Electoral Commission?
We just have a few, especially those which are still on the way coming and that kind of thing.
Lesser than 9,800?
No, we have, I think we'll be able, by tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, we should be able to raise those, because we immediately reactivated our mobilizers and asked them to collect those signatures. But this very morning we are writing to the Electoral Commission about that. We are writing to the Electoral Commission to protest that, but also probably ask for an extension of time.
If you're just joining us, I'm having this conversation with the Secretary General of the National Unity Platform, that is Mr. David Louis Rubongoye. We were talking about the raid yesterday. They took some 23 million shillings, 7 million signatures were taken away that we were collecting for Robert Chigumanya. So that is his side of the story. So what is the side of the story according to government, the police? Let's listen in.
And accoutrements of the armed forces by civilians. And this is a serious concern which was brought to the attention of the joint leadership of the armed forces after witnessing an increase in the number of civilians illegally wearing uniforms and accoutrements that are an exclusive preserve of the armed forces in Uganda. It is against this background that we conducted this operation, and we also want to use this opportunity to remind the public that the purpose of wearing police or military regalia is to make a connection between the lawful uniformed personnel and the mandated service that we offer to the public.
Continuing to arrest anyone alongside the police who will be found putting on something that is similar in design and in make, as Commander Nanga has said. Some time back, you saw when we were starting these online shows, there was a group, there was one TV station which approached us, wrote, rules were given, and they were allowed to use military uniforms.
The Uganda police narrating their side of this story, and I do have David Louis Rubongoya. Mr. David, did you have military paraphernalia in your midst yesterday?
Certainly not. Certainly not. There's a difference between military wear and our paraphernalia, basically branding items for the party. Our colors, as you know, under the law, every political party has its own colors. Our color is red. We have red, we have white, we have navy blue. And we use these colors for our different items. What you see there is not a military uniform. Even this beret we put on, the emblem on it is an emblem for the people power movement. People power, our power. It is very, very different. And any Ugandan can distinguish between that and a military police cap or beret. So certainly not. But if the military says, if the military and police say their intention was to take away the military attire, what were they looking for with the CCTV camera? What were they looking for with the money? What were they looking for with documents and other files? So it is self-defeating. You saw what they were, I mean, even you showed pictures here. They took away T-shirts. How can you say that a T-shirt like this I'm wearing belongs to the military? It's insane, to say the least. So certainly that was just a pretext.
So following this raid, will you continue wearing the red beret and other military paraphernalia that they deem as military gear?
Actually, we've activated our legal teams to take legal action, and basically we are certainly going to follow all the legal processes to make sure that we continue using these items, because these items are completely different from military wear. You remember at some point when the military came out and gazetted its wear and all that, and then the police and the military were misinterpreting that that law. We immediately went to court. Unfortunately, the case has not been decided up to now. And that's the unfortunate thing about our court processes. A lot of times they delay. But we already went to court in respect to this matter. And now I think we're going to take other legal steps to make sure that we can legally use our materials, because these are branding materials. And if you see, almost in many countries, political parties use these materials. They put on berets, they put on, because these are branding materials. So
in your opinion, you believe this is just a ruse by the central government and other security operatives to frustrate the activities of the National Unity Platform ahead of the election?
Certainly, it was an act of intimidation. It was an act of the use of force. And of course, I think one of the things we're interrogating was especially what they were interested in with the CCTV, because we know that they've been doing some suspicious activities around, and we had they think that all the data was available, and maybe that's why they were taking our CCTV cameras and other equipment, and we're following all that. Of course, they took some other sensitive data, and maybe they're trying to find out what we're doing. But I'll just say, too bad for them. We are a lawful organization. We do everything in the light. So there's nothing they will find.
It seems like the National Unity Platform has replaced the FDC when it comes to making this government shake. Because I was doing so many interviews with the NRM loyalists, and they were telling me the National Unity Platform is a very weak party. You're young people, and they're not afraid of you. But what we are seeing right now, it seems like the NRM party and all their people, they are afraid of the National Unity Platform. How so?
Certainly. I mean, they will always say they are not threatened by us. But if you see, I've challenged them before to allow Honorable Chigumanya to just go into 10 districts in this country unhindered. And maybe they will see what will happen. That's why they won't allow him on radio stations. That's why they won't allow him to move out of town. That's why they will block him everywhere. Every time he's moving around town, they're following him, and some of us moving around with us. So if they are not threatened by us, if they are not intimidated by NUP and people power, why would they be doing that? Right now, as I speak, we have hundreds of young people in jail who belong to people power in different prisons across the country. How can they turn around and say they're not scared of us? So that's what they say, but in real sense, I mean, I saw the number of police officers, military officers, LDUs and all that, who were deployed yesterday, and you could tell that it is just too much panic.
And of course, nominations for members of parliament are taking center stage today. And yesterday you did aggregate at least 427 people who are vying for these seats. But then on the same fateful day, we saw that 23 million shillings went missing from your fundraiser and other documents. So what will be the fate of these young people who are actually banking on the National Unity Platform to actually bankroll them with the 3 million shillings that they need to pay as nomination to the Electoral Commission? What will be their fate now when there is no money?
I want to first of all indicate that it's a very, very big shame and very unfortunate for the government of Uganda to be charging contestants for member of parliament 3 million shillings. Because that's a lot of money which many ordinary Ugandans do not even earn in 6 months. And yet these people should also have an opportunity to vie for leadership. And actually some people in this country do not make that money a year because of the poverty levels. And yet we want all these people to participate in politics. Now, given that we had 427 candidates vying for different positions across the country, many of them in hundreds approached us and said, look, we are running under NUP, but we do not have money. We do not have these nomination fees. And yet, these are young people who are
unemployed youth.
Young, unemployed, who are, and some are employed, of course. Many are employed, others are unemployed. But these young people have been motivated or who have been inspired by the message that we've been preaching, telling people get involved, you know, be a leader, run for office and there. So these people picked our message, ran with it, and now they are contesting for office. Unfortunately, they don't have money. So we put up a fundraiser. We were able to raise 117 million shillings, which is little money compared to the need. Because you see, if we're going to have a parliament of about 520 members of parliament, and even if you're to look at 500 members of parliament, if you're to support them with nomination fees, that's 1.5 billion shillings if you're to pay for all of them. And so the 100 million shillings I'm talking about is just a drop in the ocean. And so what we've been doing is to say, okay, whoever has 2 million shillings, let's try to contribute 1 million. Whoever has 1.5, let's try to support them here and there. And I can tell you the need is still too big. Many of them are still reaching out to say, I don't even have the 1 million, I don't even have the 500,000 shillings. And our diaspora chapters and people here in Uganda have been supporting. Some are identifying the candidates and supporting them directly. So by tomorrow we'll be able to know how many of our candidates have not been able to nominate on account of lack of nomination.
You see, David, some of the political actors I was talking to and the experts, they were telling me that that goes to only spell that the removal of age limit in 2017 wasn't geared towards giving young people space in this political realm. Because if you still maintain 3 million for MPs and 20 million for the president, how will the young people who are unemployed, who are grappling with maybe meager pay for those who have the jobs, get to bankroll the Electoral Commission with 3 million or 20 million respectively? So do you think that with this money still in the offing, many young people might be frustrated to participate at the national stage?
Certainly, and we've seen it already. I mean, many of these young people have been left out already, even for councillor positions. You would see someone that have 50,000 shillings for nomination fees because of the poverty levels, which have been exacerbated by the COVID situation. So certainly the removal of age limit, I mean, it would be the highest level of pretense for anyone to claim that they removed the age limit to enable young people to participate in politics. Because there are so many hurdles in the way of young people, and very, very many young people are not able to participate because there are so many hurdles put in their way. The levels of monetization of politics in this country are shaming and alarming. Right from, even if you are able to pay the nomination fee, 3 million shillings, look at how expensive a campaign in Uganda is. Remember, you're running with NRM candidates in all these areas, And for them, they start from an advantageous position where NRM will pay this money from taxpayers' money, clearly. They will come out and deny it, but we all know that this is taxpayers' money. They will get this money, pay for all their candidates' nomination fees, and then these are the people you're competing with. While you're looking for money for posters, while you're looking for money for what, the NRM will get this money, which you and me pay for taxes, and give it to its candidates to run with it. So it's very, very unfortunate. And this is why all Ugandans need to realize that we do not have a level playing field for all political actors. And our message to them has been, it is their duty and responsibility to change this situation in our country.
Of course, David, you're veering into an election that is heavily commercialized.
Yeah.
You and I believe that to be true.
Yeah.
This is a heavily commercialized election. Now, you have young people who do not even have money for nomination. How are they going to campaign in the scientific mode of this election? Where will they get money to appear on TV stations to make their message known? Don't you anticipate hurdles in that regard?
Certainly. I mean, that's what I'm saying, that you're going for an election, but beginning from a very, very disadvantaged point of view. I mean, just look at this whole nonsense, or the whole notion, let me call it a notion, but it's a nonsensical, to say the least, of a scientific election, in my view, because look at what is happening. You just go downtown and see the thousands and thousands of people gathered there, and then the government says, no, we're not going to allow rallies. I mean, because you saw what was happening in the NRM primaries.
Yes.
People, basically there was nothing. It was as if we were back to 2016 when there was no COVID, and people were campaigning openly, doing all sorts of things. And then when it comes to NUP and other opposition forces, the government says, no, now COVID-19 is there, and that kind of thing. But the whole idea of a scientific election is meant to disadvantage the people on the opposition, people who are trying to clamor for change. Because who owns the radio stations in this country? Who owns the TV stations in this country? What limitations are there on them? Because many of them are owned or controlled by NRM sycophants, to say the least. And we've tried to go to Mbarara, for example. The other day, Honorable Chigumanya was meant to appear on radio stations in Mbarara. And what happened was that we went to every radio station, and people were calling the DPC to find out if they should actually allow to receive our money. So even beyond the expenses involved, because in some cases, the radio stations, because they want to chase you away, give you a bill of 6 million shillings for a 1-hour program. They don't want to say they've chased you away because you're NUP, but they make it impossible for you. And that's what we saw with consultations, where you went to a hall and you wanted to use it for maybe 4 hours. And these guys said 20 million shillings. Because
to frustrate you.
To frustrate you, because they know that you're not allowed. You're an illegal entity, although you're legal, you're recognized and that kind of thing. So those are the challenges, but we are not giving up, we are not giving in. We know that the people of Uganda are on our side, we know that the law is on our side, we know that morality is on our side.
And you have the supporters who are watching on your side, the National Unity Platform supporters who are watching NTV at this opportune moment, would also want to know how you plan to circumnavigate or circumvent these problems and challenges that you're grappling with.
Yeah, so ours has always been a faith in the people of Uganda. And we've seen them do incredible things. I'll tell you, for example, yesterday, these guys came and stole 23 million shillings. But by morning today, our comrades have already collected 25 million shillings to replace the 23 million shillings. So this shows you a people who are determined to cause change in this country, regardless of the hurdles. Every time they've frustrated us from reaching out there, we find a way, and that's what the Honorable Chigumanya calls the rubber dub style. They frustrate us from reaching out to the people. Honorable Chigumanya sends a song, and it's able to reach even more people and that kind of thing. So there are all these hurdles, there are all these challenges, but we certainly will countermand them and take this country to liberation.
Well, the viewer would like to know how.
How? I mean, the way we've been doing it, that's what I'll say. There are many times when people did not expect the Honorable Chigumanya to be in places, and then they find him there tomorrow. And we've given the people an assurance that we are going to reach them. We've told them, I will not tell you how. For example, yesterday, I mean, I've been seeing all the papers and TVs asking how did the Honorable Chigumanya disappear from the scene and other leaders and that kind of thing. It's not just, but so we know the game we are in. And by the time we came into this, I think we know how the system operates,
Yeah.
and we know how to go about it.
You see, David, according to some of the political experts I was talking to, they were saying if the NUP is to lose this election, it might not be because the NRM has rigged. That could only be part of the story. But they are saying you might lose this election because of the financial implications that you find yourselves in. Fundraising has failed. The money that you had raised already, yes, it disappeared. You're grappling with so many challenges here and there. The government is trying to frustrate you, security apparatus and so forth. So the message is not readily being sent to the voter since it's a scientific election. So they contend you might lose this election because you haven't been able to send your message home.
Yeah,
not because NRM might rig.
What is very interesting, I don't know what I should say to those experts, because it's very unfortunate how they look at things. What is rigging to them? An election is not an event. An election does not happen in one day. The whole processes that we go through towards an election.
So you believe
part of an election.
rigging has started now already?
Of course, it started already. Because if you just close me, tie my hands to a pole and say you must remain here, while I go around the country campaigning, deploy RDCs, ISO, whoever, to go out there, intimidate our people during youth elections. RDCs literally went around districts telling people not to contest as NUP. Some of the NUP candidates were removed even after nominations, and that kind of thing was happening. So when they say that NUP might lose not because of rigging, I don't understand them, because the rigging has already started. But we expected this. We expected these hurdles. Our approach has always been that, look, every dictatorship throughout history has tried to rig elections. But if people turn out in big numbers, and people stand out and come out in large numbers, and we've seen it. You saw in Chadondo East, when Honorable Chigumanya was running for office, they brought so many predict ballot papers and that kind of thing to rig for their candidate, but the people stood their ground. People were at the polling stations early morning, and they did not leave until it was evening, and until the results were announced. So that's what we're saying, that the hurdles will be there. The rigging certainly will be there. But the people of Uganda, what we've been telling them is, please turn up in large numbers. We're thankful that millions of young people responded to our call to register as voters, although, of course, the government got very threatened and immediately closed off the period, blocking about 4 million young people from being able to vote in this election, who are already 18 years of age. But our approach is to rally the masses, to rally the people, to come out and realize that this is not about NUP, this is not about whoever, it is about our country, it is about making things better for our children and their children's children.
Well, David, before the nomination of candidates within the NRM internal primaries, we saw a lot of violence taking center stage, candidates brutalizing each other, and the supporters brutalizing each other from the respective candidates. Do you believe that such violence that was meted out within the NRM will be replicated on the national stage?
Very much so. And first of all, I think that in a way exonerates us, because the NRM has already branded us as violent. At some times they're calling us hooligans. At some times they're calling us riffraffs and all those other names. But when it came to the elections, we saw who the real violent people were. You saw people literally killing each other. And thankfully our candidate selection process was smooth despite the challenges that we had. But we did not have incidents of that nature. But you need to understand that we are in a highly militarized state. And so if you see what happened in Kamwokya yesterday, you can certainly tell what is going to happen in the national election. When we tried to carry out consultations, I remember the Honorable Chigumanya and other leaders, Joel Senyonyi and others, were headed to lead up for consultations. And people were putting on people power t-shirts, and they were on a police pickup. So these people were brought to pretend that they were our supporters, and basically start causing violence, such that now the police and the military would respond violently towards us. So many times it's not that the opposition people are violent. It's because the regime, and I think they have boasted that they are the masters of violence, and that's how they've been able to capture state power and keep it. But we can tell them that there's something as non-violent resistance, which has taken down so many a dictator. Of
course, David, that is all largely centered around consolidation of power. But do you see hallmarks or similarities of what is happening now with what used to happen during the Obote or the Amin regimes?
Of course. And I think even worse. You know what is interesting is that...
what do you mean worse? The Obote government killed 500,000 people. Amin also killed around 500,000 people. Where's the similarity?
Actually, if you look at how many people died in those... And first of all, one of the historical questions that has never been resolved is who was killing those people?
The Obote regime.
No, that's what I'm saying. We need to interrogate that further. Because,
we
example,
did interrogate.
No, look at the Luelo war, the war that brought President Museveni to power. Of course, they say history is written by the victors. But if you interrogate that question deeply, you realize that actually it probably was not just the government of Obote killing these people. And there are historical facts to that. But what I want to say is, when President Museveni and his people came here, you know, they promised a fundamental change.
Right.
And you could sense that this was a civil kind of group of people who were educated and that kind of thing. You would not expect them to do the kinds of things we've seen them do. You could not expect that such a government could go to Kasese and kill 150 civilians. So, I mean, we've seen worse things happening. Every time the regime has been threatened, look at what happened in Arua. Every time the regime has been threatened, they resort to extreme violence against those who oppose it. So certainly, we need liberation, because I think our country since independence has been bleeding, and we need to extricate ourselves.
And you believe the National Unity Platform is the party to bring about that change in Uganda, and how so?
The people of Uganda, actually, you know, for us, and the reason why, one of the reasons why, amongst all these political parties, we went for the National Unity Platform, because we believe in national unity, we believe in bringing people together. It's just not about the NUP, it's about the people of Uganda.
How do you plan to bring about that change that is much desired?
We believe that if the people of Uganda entrust us to be in leadership in this country, we'll be able to, first of all, one of the things we've talked about is national unity and reconciliation. Yes. We believe that our country is wounded, battered, there's a lot of division along so many lines and that kind of thing. We hope to bring our people together. We hope to bring harmony within this country. We hope to bring equality, whether it is social or economic, because, you know, one of the problems, one of the things that breeds violence and that kind of thing is if a police officer is earning, you know, a paltry salary of 200, 300,000 shillings.
It will lead to corruption.
It will lead even to frustration, desperation on their part. You know, if a police officer leaves home and they're stressed, they don't have, their children are not going to school, they don't have money even for food.
So they end up meting out this anger on the civilians. On
the civilians, yeah. And that same goes to the army and all that kind of thing. So we believe that the problems of this country, like I've been saying, are a cocktail combined in something called bad governance. We believe that we are able to improve governance and then have our people together and have a more peaceful country.
And finally, speaking of divisions, Mr. David Lewis Rubongoya, yes, we have the Moses Chigumanya case versus Robert Kyagulanyi. What do you anticipate to be the outcome tomorrow?
We hope that we will win the case. I will not go into the merits because it's a matter before court. Because we have a good case, and I know for sure as Secretary General of this party that everything we did to get NUP was done in accordance with the law. So we hope that it will go in our favor.
And we're getting news that the judge supposed to preside over this case is under house arrest. Is it true?
I don't know, but in this country, everything is possible. I mean, you saw Chibarama was under house arrest and was driven straight to court. Very, very unfortunate.
What if you lose? What do you plan to do?
What if we lose? There are alternatives within the law. You can always appeal and stay execution of the order of a lower court and others. But for now, I prefer to be on the side of optimism to know that we'll win the case.
And we wish you all the best, Mr. David Lewis Rubongoya, the Secretary General of the National Unity Platform. Many thanks for having made the time to speak to us. We understand it's not an easy situation. Your office is raided, and the next day you are at the NTV offices. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, and you who is watching, many thanks for having made it a point from 6:30 a.m. up to now. At this opportune moment, we are going to take you to Wakiso, where our reporter Stephen Mbide is on standby to talk to the district returning officer. That will be done shortly after this breather. We'll be right back.